Welcome back to the show. On November 8th, we will have the election for many candidates, including to elect the new judge for Section D of Orleans Criminal District Court. The candidates are Judge Paul Bonin and attorneys Kevin Guillory and Dennis Moore. Thank you all for being with us here today.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's get right to it. Time is short. So the first question, and by random allotment, we have Mr. Kevin Guillory gets to answer it first. You have 2 minutes to give us your name, a summary of your campaign platform, and 3 of your best qualities that you think qualify you for this very important seat at Criminal District Court.
Well, my name's Kevin Guillory. I'm going to be number 77 on your ballot. I currently work as a prosecutor at the Orleans Parish District Attorney's Office, where I've been primarily handling major offenses such as homicides, aggravated rapes, and aggravated kidnappings for about the past 7-8 years. I've also worked as a defense attorney a little bit for a couple of years in private practice. What I'd like to do once I'm elected is, first of all, I'd like to spearhead a change in the criminal justice system. Working with the community, working with the other judges, and lobbying to the city and to the legislature so we can really bring positive change to the criminal justice system. And I'm talking about trying to fight against mandatory minimum sentences, trying to limit the ways or create additional criteria that the district attorney and the courts must look at when utilizing the multiple bill. I'd like to further implement already available programs in courts such as reentry court, drug court, mental health court, veterans court. And most importantly, I want to make sure that we're putting rehabilitation back in the criminal justice system. It seems like for far too long, the system is more focused on punishment, and there needs to be a rehabilitation in the system so that we can prevent young men and women who come through the system from coming back through the system. And we have to do that out in the community by getting them treatment for whatever issues they are facing, such as mental health, drug addiction, lack of community resources, lack of family resources, and most importantly, lack of jobs. And finally, I'd like to work with the businesses in the city and other departments so that we can task employers in our city to give these young men and women, particularly those who are on probation or returning from incarceration, opportunities and jobs to prevent them from coming through the system.
Okay. Spearhead change, incorporate more rehabilitation into the system instead of punishment, and use your skills from your experience to bring about a partnership with the community.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next on the list is Mr. Moore, Dennis Moore. Same question for you, and I'll repeat it. Your name, your platform, and 3 of your best qualities that you think qualify you for this important post, serving the community as a criminal court judge in Orleans Parish.
Okay. My name is Dennis Moore. My number is number 78 on the ballot. I've actually been a criminal defense attorney for about 18 years, working in all over the state, but primarily here in Orleans Parish. My platform is very simple. I believe that we need to put justice back into the system. It's easy to say justice, but this is how I plan on doing it. First thing, that the criminal justice system need to be modernized. It makes no sense that we have a criminal justice system that is still based on 20th century technology when you have other courts in this state that are using 21st century technology to streamline the process. The second thing that I believe that we need to do is, when I said put justice back into the criminal justice system, we need to look at having both victims who have to go through the system and defendants feel that they are getting adequate justice in the system instead of the platitudes that people may say. How is that? There makes no sense that a simple case such as a possession of cocaine should take over a year for the people to get to court. Another thing we need to deal with is the over-incarceration of people for nonviolent crimes. And that means that from the bail bonding system, as far as setting excessively high bonds, we need to actually deal with that. A person is considered innocent until they go through the entire process. Right now, we actually use the bonding system to actually keep people in jail until they can actually go through the system, which we already know is flawed. What makes me the person that is more capable. I'm looking at my background, and I'll discuss that more in depth a little later on.
Okay, so modernize a justice system that is overdue for technology and other improvements to catch up with technology and other modern improvements that are being used by other systems. Put the justice back in the justice system where nonviolent criminals are crowding an overcrowded system, if I'm hearing you right, and otherwise look to improve the system in other ways that you've witnessed as somebody working in the system as a defense attorney.
Basically using technology, yes, sir.
Okay, all right. All right. Paul Bonin, judge in the Fourth Circuit. Same question goes to you. 2 minutes. Your name so people can hear you say it. Platform that you're running on, or the main points of your platform, and 3 of your best qualities that you think qualify you to assume that very important position in criminal district court.
Thank you very much, John, for having us here this afternoon. The first thing, my name is Paul Bonin. I am number 76, or 76. I hope I said that with my limited Spanish. I am serving, as you mentioned, as a judge currently on the Court of Appeal, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeal. Previous to my serving on that court, I was a traffic court in Orleans Parish for 11 years. The last 8 years I've been on the Court of Appeal, which oversees, among other courts, the Criminal District Court, which I am now seeking to serve as a judge. The kind of 2 hallmarks that I feel a judge should have, and I think I bring special experiences and qualities to, is a judge in criminal court especially should be respectful of everyone who comes in there, respectful of their human dignity. That could be the defendant, that can be the victim, that can be the juror, the court watcher, the police officer, or a witness. That's one side. The other aspect that the judge has to be, especially in criminal court, is completely committed, totally committed to the Bill of Rights. That is, when you cut through everything else, that no one is to be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And the key thing there is a fair trial. And a fair trial involves assistance of counsel. A fair trial means not being held in detention or in jail unnecessarily, that you have those sorts of rights, and myriad other ones. Now, what I think the qualities that I bring, or I have demonstrated over my 20 years as a judge, that I care. Number 2, that I am a student of the law. And 3, that I have a wealth of experience.
Okay. So to try and get the high points of that, you want to respect everybody's rights, no matter what your role in the courtroom is, as a victim, as a criminal defendant, as somebody sitting in the jury, a police officer, a witness in a case, a prosecutor, or defense counsel. You're committed to the Bill of Rights. You want to respect the Constitution and the rights that it promises everybody, whether or not you're accused or you're a victim or you're a police officer trying to do his job. And you want to make sure everybody gets a fair trial and that their rights to a fair trial are upheld, if I understood you. Is that a fair restatement?
That's very fair.
Okay, good. Moving right along. And so we don't do it in the same order every time. I'm going to ask you, Mr. Moore, to start the next question. What are the most pressing issues facing Latinos and other minorities in our criminal justice system, in your opinion? Things like obtaining fairness to all, and assuring that in our world, discussed in politics a lot lately, assuring Latinos not to fear our legal justice system as victims, as witnesses to crime, and other matters you want to touch on. And you get a whole 2 minutes to try and answer that.
Yeah, well, one of the main things that is affecting the Latino and other minorities, the main thing is that they are afraid of the system. They don't understand the system. A lot of that is because we as judges, or the system doesn't go out and say, hey, these are your rights that you have. what needs to be done in the criminal district court in that realm, I believe that the court needs to set up where it's more friendly to all our citizens. That means that we need to bring in interpreters to be able to come through and help many Latinos who English may not be their first language. So they need to understand what's going on. You need to have interpreters not only in the court, but when you're dealing with different attorneys that are representing them, so that they are explained, or they're explaining their rights and what they can and cannot do, what the government can and cannot do, and not put in a situation that they are afraid. If they're victims, they're afraid to come in because people may tell them things that are not true, especially when we deal with some undocumented. They're just like, well, I'm not going down there because I'm going to end up getting kicked out of the country. But they are victims, so they are being, again, victimized by the system. So our criminal justice system needs to open up to bring in different professionals who actually have that expertise to actually explain all our documents, all our motion hearings and stuff should be written in different languages, in Spanish and French. So anybody that comes in can actually understand what's going on. That's the main thing that needs to be done. And me as a judge in my court, I would actually make sure that we have all that information there for the victims and defendants also.
Okay. So you want to make sure that anybody out there, whether you're a victim of a crime or you are an accused in a crime or you're involved in the system, that there's a way for them to have their rights explained to them. They're educated about their rights, and so they won't fear the system as much as long as they understand the system better.
That's true.
Okay. Okay. Going down the line, Paul, what about you?
I very much agree with Dennis about interpreters. The biggest single problem I think that we've had with interpreters in the courts is that they have not always been professional interpreters, and that means that they either weren't properly trained. It's not adequate to have someone who only speaks the language to be the interpreter. They have to have some training in legal terminology and some ability to clearly communicate these very, very difficult legal principles to people. And so in that respect, I think that the challenge of the court and the responsibility that the judge has to take for ensuring, as again, a part of a fair trial, fair proceedings, take responsibility to make sure that we have professional interpreters in the court. The second aspect that I think is a big challenge to Latinos and Latinas that are coming into the court is that sometimes they are disconnected from some of the usual places that we're familiar with, the judges and the attorneys and so forth. So it looks like that they have a higher hurdle when it comes to asking for pretrial release. Well, who do you know, you see? And they're not necessarily connected to people that we know. So we need to be able, and I think Dennis pointed this out quite properly, we as judges need to be going out into the community and familiarizing ourselves with the places where the Latinos and the Latinos have made their homes and have made connections in the community so that those leaders can come to the court and speak for Latinos and vouch for them and let us know that we have somebody who can be relied upon.
Okay. So educating people through access into the community, through the leaders in the Hispanic community, and when they're in the courtroom, making sure that interpreters are there and properly trained.
Except the only little thing is educating us, the judges. Right. In other words, not necessarily us going to the community and telling them something, but them letting us know.
Letting the court listen
right.
to the Hispanic community and the leaders in the community. Thank you for that. All right, Kevin Guillory.
Well, first off, I agree with both Judge Bone and Mr. Moore as far as the translators. I do believe we need to have professional translators at every point of the proceedings, not just when they come to court, because by the time they actually come to one of the felony sections of court, that means that the charges have already been accepted against them, or if they're a victim, it means that they're at some point where they're going to have to testify in the near future, or just to be interested. So we need to not only have translators on hand, we need to have translators available for people, Latino people who are arrested and accused from the moment of arrest. So once they're making their initial appearances, to have their bond set. And that's something that the judges and the criminal justice system, whether it's the sheriff's office, should make sure they implement into that system. Additionally, I believe we need to have appropriate signage in the criminal district courthouse. That's also in languages that the Latino community would understand. We need to have an information center in the courtroom. I don't know if I've heard that, but that's one of the things I've talked about, is a lot of times people come in the court and they have no idea where to go. They come up and catch the nearest attorney that they see and say, where do I go to get this? And I can only imagine how difficult that would be for someone from the Latino community trying to find where they're supposed to be if they're talking to a bunch of people in the hallway that don't even speak their language. So we need to make sure there's appropriate services, such translation services for all of the people and the community when it comes to going to court. I agree with Judge Bonin also about going into community. And I think what we need to do is the judges need to not only be educated, but also do need to educate the Latino community about their rights and about the criminal justice system. I can tell you, my work as a prosecutor, I have seen that the Latino community, while it is ever growing and getting larger and larger, they are continuously being victimized and being victims of crime, because those who are offenders believe that, one, they won't report it because they think the majority of them are undocumented. And then additionally, they believe that they won't that they won't have interest in, that they also have cash on because they don't have bank accounts. We've got to educate them and let them know that it is safe to participate in the process. It is safe to testify. It is safe to come to court. You will not be deported. You will not be treated unfairly because you are from Latino descent.
Okay, so you've agreed a lot with what we've already heard from the other candidates. Access to a quality trained interpreters, reaching out to the community, and,
Yes.
and you've added that even the way signs are done in the courthouse, you need it for both English speakers and Spanish speakers, and just basically having intelligent decisions on how the Hispanic community is educated not to fear the system.
That's
We
correct.
have some before as well. Okay, so we're down to our last question. It's going to be short. Time is short. So in 1 minute, I want you to tell us what you'd like the viewers to know about you. And very briefly, 1 minute, in considering who to vote, or Hispanic voters.
Well, I'd like you voters to know that I have been a judge for 20 years and have tried to be an innovative judge in all of those 20 years. But I really want to say to your viewers is that the judge in a criminal court can be the most important person in their lives, and that when they go to vote on November the 8th, not to forget to go down the ballot and to vote on all of the positions that are there. I am Judge Paul Bonin. I am number 766, and I would appreciate consideration. Thank you.
All right, now we're going to Mr. Guillory.
What I'd like your viewers to know is that I truly appreciate the contribution that they've made to our city. And I know that a lot of times they do feel like outsiders, not only just in the criminal justice system, but also in the city, period. And I can tell you that after Katrina, I know firsthand that half of this city was rebuilt on the backs and the sweat and the labor of the Hispanic community. So thank you for contributing to our city. And I just want to ask you that if you consider voting for me, I will make sure that you feel welcome, that you always feel welcome and appreciated in my courtroom. You will not feel like an outsider. You will be treated with the same respect, and I will observe the same constitutional rights that any other citizen of this country or any other human being has been given and deserves. So please vote for Kevin Guillory, number 77.
Okay. Next, Mr. Dennis Moore.
First, I want to thank you for allowing me to come in and speak to the Hispanic community and the community at large. My name is Dennis Moore. I'm number 78 on the ballot. I believe that in this race, you're looking for a person who will be an innovator. I believe I am that innovator. I have a master's in software design that I can bring the technology and the improvement that way. I also look at that I've been a criminal defense attorney for 18 years. actually fighting for individuals in this criminal justice system. I know where the problems are. I know where it needs to be done to fix it. Please vote for Dennis Moore, number 78. Thank you.
Well, thank you, all three of you. At this point, we're going to have to end the discussion. Coming up next, we'll be speaking to candidates for the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeal, and we have to conclude it here. Thank you much, and good luck to all of you. I'll shake your hand in a minute,
Is that
Judge
right?
Berman.